Hey, everybody, welcome. Everybody's doing well. Welcome. What is this? Last Sunday of June? Was it June 22nd? Yeah, June 22nd, 2025. And the question today is Morpheus the greatest training system ever? And will it help me achieve my fastest 10K time, at least in the last year or so? Let's talk about it. Um, I've been using Morpheus for it's about 6 weeks at this point. I did a live stream about 4 or 5 days after I got Morpheus, and have been using it every day since then. And I've also been training for the Peachtree Road Race, which is a 10K run in Atlanta on July 4th. So it's coming up in about 12 days, and they bill themselves as the biggest 10K in the world, and pretty close. There's about 60,000 people that will be running it. I ran my first one. I got a T-shirt on from the first Peachtree Road Race that I ran, which was 2018. So this year will be my fifth. Didn't ran it in 2018, 2019. There was no race in 2020, but ran it in 21, and then ran it in 2023, and then this year will be the fifth one. So talk about Morpheus, my impressions of the Morpheus heart rate variability and heart rate training tool that I've been using for 6 weeks, and talk about a little bit about how I've been using it for um, uh, to complement or help me in my training for the 10K, the Peachtree Road Race coming up here in 12 days. So, welcome everybody. Hope the day is going well for you. End of June already, and the heat is on here and in Atlanta, and I think it is for a lot of the country. I know some of you people in the Midwest and Northeast are going to see temperatures in the hundreds. We're going to see 95, 97 degrees, so you guys will actually be warmer than we are down here, but we'll probably have a little higher humidity. So definitely summer, and that's impacted or affected the outdoor training that I've been doing, and how I've been using Morpheus to kind of help me one, get used to running in the heat and humidity of an Atlanta summer, and then two, to help me make sure that I don't go too far into the well, right? Go too hard, too many days, and beat myself down, and then try to keep doing that. So, talk a little bit about that. But a lot of you maybe are doing running races or anything, but I've been using, like I said, Morpheus for about 6 weeks, and I got it primarily to see how it works with monitoring and keeping an idea on heart rate variability, and as a result of that, measuring recovery on a day-to-day basis, and using the Morpheus as a tool to make sure that I'm still getting the work in that I need to be doing on a daily and weekly basis, especially from the perspective of lifelong strength and health. So long-term cardiac conditioning, for the rest of my life. So I've been got Morpheus specifically for that. But about the time that I got Morpheus, I was starting to ramp up my training for the Peachtree Road Race. Now, when I say ramp up, I'm uh, uh, going a little bit increase in my running, but nothing like I was doing a few years ago when I was almost running exclusive. My only real cardio uh, at that point was running, and that's pretty much all I was doing. The last 3 or 4 years, I've balanced that out, introduced a lot of strength training in there. So when I say really up my running, it's going from 1 to 2 days a week of running to 3 days a week of running, with the goal of over the previous 6 to 8 weeks, kind of gradually increasing my long run and adding in some longer race pace efforts to my running. So when I get to the Peachtree Road Race here on July 4th, that I am fit enough to run the 10K comfortably And if I want to push the pace and try to go a little faster, I should be able to do that. I don't have any expectations to get anywhere near what I did even back in 2023, which I think was 47, 47:14 or 47:13. In 2021, I did 46:14 or something. So I was running close to 7 minutes a mile for the 10K. I'll be happy if I average closer to 8 to 8:30 a mile. So that's kind of my goal. But in order to do that, you still need to do some running specific training to be able to run a little faster, like doing that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Any of you that are watching live, feel free to enter in the comments or questions or anything in the chat, and I will do what I can to answer your questions. If you're watching this after the live stream, go ahead and leave a comment down there if there's anything you saw in here that interested you, or any stories you want to share about your training, running, anything like that. Go ahead and leave a comment. I'll do my best to answer all the comments. And as other people watch the video over the future, those comments are oftentimes helpful for everybody. It can add some context and help people get more out of the videos. And that's what we're trying to do here, is just bring good quality content about lifelong strength and health out there. So anything you can do to add to that and increase the usefulness by leaving a comment, go ahead and do that. And while you're at it, go ahead and hit that like button, a thumbs up. That really does help push our content out among like-minded people that are looking for this type of live stream and videos that are kind of focused on maintaining strength and health through middle age into old age and improving the quality of life for as long as possible. So love to have you along for the ride. And if you're not a subscriber, go ahead and subscribe too. Okay. We'd love to have you as a subscriber. So I've got taken some screenshots of what Morpheus has been showing me the last couple of days. I've been using it long enough that I've got that full 30 plus days of data, which is really what they say when you start using Morpheus. You got to give it a few weeks of data before you can really start getting some trends and averages that are meaningful in terms of making any adjustments to your training, that type of thing. So I've been using it. I think this is basically 45 days at this point. I think I started using it about 6 weeks ago, just this past Wednesday. So I'm about 45 days in. By the time the Peachtree comes up, that'll be about 8 weeks in. And I'll do a live stream the Sunday after the Peachtree. So it'll be Sunday, July 6th. And I'll talk about kind of my experience of the Peachtree Road Race and kind of check in and see how I'm feeling about Morpheus at that time as well. But so far, bottom line, I guess, is I do like Morpheus. I think it is going to be a good, solid tool in my ongoing training. It's a good way to just double check and make sure that you are recovered enough to really take advantage of that current day and maybe the next few days in the week, to make sure that you're not pushing things too much, or hey, maybe you do have an opportunity to do a little bit more. So we'll talk about that as I go through here. So I've got a few screenshots from Morpheus over the last couple of days. So to give you a quick overview of the Morpheus system, for those of you that may not be aware of it. So it's essentially a heart rate monitor, a specific heart rate monitor that has, I guess, some extra firmware in it that communicates with the Morpheus app, which is on your phone. And let me go ahead and show you that. So Morpheus app is on the phone, and you put on heart rate monitor. And the main reason you use Morpheus, the heart rate monitor, is on a daily basis. They suggest when you get up first thing in the morning. So you wake up, maybe you go to the bathroom real quick, and then you come back and you just sit quietly, put the Morpheus heart rate strap on, and go through and do a recovery check-in. So you put the heart rate strap on, click through there, picks up the signal. The app picks up the signal from the heart rate monitor, and then it's about a 2.5 minute period where you basically just sit still. Don't try to control your breathing. Just sit still and be relaxed. And over that 2.5 minute period, Morpheus app is reading basically the heart rate data from the monitor and doing calculations to come up with a couple of metrics. One is your heart rate variability, or HRV, which is basically showing the balance between the sympathetic and the parasympathetic system in there. In other words, how is the difference in time between beats? If you've got a higher variability, in other words, one beat might be half a second, the next beat might be a third of a second between beats. And if there's a good variability there, that indicates that you are generally more recovered, relaxed, and that your body is operating more on what's called the parasympathetic nervous system. In other words, the rest and relaxation side of things, as opposed to the what's called, you might have heard what they call it, the fight or flight syndrome, where you're kind of stressed. That will typically result in a lower heart rate variability. So if your heart rate variability is a little higher, that indicates that a couple of things. One, that you're probably generally your body is operating more on the kind of the rest and relaxation side of things, and as opposed to having a high level of stress. And then two, that might offer the ability for you to be that you're re-energizing, recovering over the course of the previous night. Okay, so those are the two main things that are checked. So you do that check-in every day. I've done it. I haven't missed a day. It's really easy habit. I basically, get up, the alarm goes off, or I wake up, go to the bathroom, come back, sit on the bed, put the heart rate strap on, go click a couple buttons on the app, and 2.5 minutes later, I'm done, and I've got my recovery score and suggested heart rate ranges for activities for that day. So let's talk about that. So first thing, so you do the recovery, and this I'm going to show yesterday's and then today's to kind of give you an idea what changes as you do workouts. So here is yesterday's screenshot. This was right after I did my my check-in in the morning, and it came back with a recovery score of 95. It goes from 0 to 100, and generally anything above about 80 indicates that you're probably uh, ready to train. In other words, you can probably go a little more intense of a workout, a little longer workout if you want. So I had a recovery score of 95, which is good. My HRV was 80. And I think that was a little lower than my average, but um, what's interesting as you start using Morpheus, you start figuring out things about, hey, how was my sleep? How did my diet? How is my nutrition? How is my stress level? And you'll start seeing those impacts in the HRV and the recovery score. So, so this was Saturday before the workout, and this little section down here, it says weekly training zone targets. When you use the app, you set up the app, you plug in, your age, your weight, your maximum heart rate, if you know it. And I do within a few beats. I think I have 173 in there as my max heart rate. So it figures out heart rate ranges within a range, and it breaks it down into three areas. Blue is, think of that as the recovery zone. So think of that, the upper end of the blue range is what we would call probably zone 2. So anything basically from above about 100 up into the top end of your zone 2. The green is kind of think of that as intensity, but not super high intensity. Red level is think of that as VO2 max or higher effort on your heart rate. So typically the last 95 to 100% of your max heart rate. Okay, so when I woke up yesterday morning, my recovery score was 95, HRV was 80. Uh, Picked up the sleep, pulled the sleep from my Garmin watch. So I had 8 hours and 25 minutes of sleep. I tend to average between about 7:45 and 8:10, 8:15, a little longer here yesterday morning. My weekly training zone targets was blue of 236 to 354. And as of yesterday morning, my week goes from Monday through Sunday. As of yesterday morning, I'd had only 94 minutes in the blue zone. So I had some work to do there. My green zone, which is think of that as kind of your threshold or mid, probably 80 to 90% of your heart rate, max heart rate, somewhere in that range, 85, 80 to 95, something like that. The range was suggested 32 to 57. I had right at 57, 58. And the VO2 max, or the super high intensity, suggested was 3 to 12. I had 0 at that point. So the week had been kind of hectic. Had some people in and out of the house. We're looking at getting our air conditioning replaced. It's kind of old and still working, but starting to show some signs that it needs to be replaced. So I've had a lot of activity, kind of interruptions to the schedule a little bit. But so that was Saturday morning, and then before the workout. And then what I did, my goal, I'll kind of switch back here. My goal was to, my goal for Saturday was to just do a longer zone 2 ride on Zwift. I had run on previous Tuesday and Thursday. Friday was kind of a busy day. I didn't. I did a. Did I do any? I didn't really do any conditioning. I did some lifting, but so I knew I had to do some zone 2 type minutes. So my goal was to do a Zwift, a ride on Zwift. You know, 35 minutes to an hour, something like that, build up some minutes. And then today was a run day where I was going to do kind of zone 2 along with some harder efforts at the end. So that was kind of where I was at. And so that was before the workout. And then the zones that were given based off of your recovery every day, depending if your recovery is higher or lower, it'll adjust the heart rate for the various zones based on your recovery. If my recovery was low and my heart rate variability was kind of way off range of my average, you would see the recovery, all the zones would be a little bit lower. So my normal recovery is somewhere 87 to 142, what they call conditioning, 143 to 158, and then overload 159 to 174. So I was pretty much good to go because my recovery was, what was it, 95, and heart rate variability was kind of right in kind of the average. So that was the zones that I was shooting for. So I went and I did it ended up being almost an hour on Zwift. Had a new route that I wanted to do, and it was about 18 miles, and it took me just a little under an hour, adjusting the resistance to kind of keep me in the blue zone, the recovery, they call the recovery zone. So think of that as uh, low effort to zone 2 all the way through a high end zone 2. Okay. So I did the workout, and um, it ended up being because most of it, if you take a look at the minutes here, weekly training zone targets, this was after the workout. I had 90, what did I have in there? Go back. I had 94 minutes in blue in a recovery zone before the workout. And after the workout, I had 152. So I think I rode about 50, 58 minutes. So just about perfect. I stayed all in that blue zone. And I think my max heart rate in this was about 130, 35, 136. So I kind of stayed right in that sweet spot, a low zone 2 range. So I accomplished my goal, but I didn't get any conditioning or max effort in that particular workout. Now, let's switch back here. Um, so that was Saturday. So I came into it, and by using Morpheus over the previous week or so, I knew that I was a little bit behind on the zone 2 minutes, and that was I figured, I can make up a good chunk of that by just doing a good steady state on the indoor trainer using Zwift, and I did. And I figured, okay, well, today, Sunday, I'm going to do a run, probably about an hour run was my goal. And I was going to go out and do, the first half of that or most of that in zone 2 to maybe just touching, high zone 2, if I could keep it there, and then take like the last 10 minutes or so and do a few hill sprints to kind of get some VO2 max, not full on, 4-minute VO2 max sessions like I've done, but more of a minute or two. It was hot, it was humid, it was at the end of the run, and that's kind of part of my training is I want to try to adapt to the heat and humidity. So I figured, well, I'll do a little bit longer run, 45, 50 minutes of a moderate pace run, zone 2 type run, and then do some hill sprints at the end. So that's what I did. And here is when I woke up this morning and did my recovery uh, test in the morning when I woke up. My recovery score was 87. I think after the ride yesterday, because more of it was recovery oriented, lower, not really pushing anything. Recovery actually, I went from 95 to 97, and then yesterday I did have pretty big dinner, and I did have a couple beers later into the evening. I stopped a few hours before I went to bed, and they were lighter beers, but they still affect me. And um, heart rate variability was a little lower, 77. Okay, so and no steps because I basically just woke up and tested it. But sleep, I got about 8 hours and 22 minutes, so not bad. But maybe yesterday was a little harder than I thought. I did a lot of activity in the afternoon, some yard work out in the heat later in the day. So it all adds up and all contributes. But if you take a look down at the bottom, down here, this is my 30-day recovery score. Okay, you can see um, what's there, about 3, 4, 5, 6 out of those 30 days or so that were below 80. And those tended to be not the day after a hard workout, typically 2 days after a hard workout, which is kind of interesting. Like this last one here, what is that, 19? That's Thursday. Yeah, that's Thursday. That was when I woke up Thursday morning. I ran Thursday, but that score there, I don't know what that was. Probably 72, 73. I did a fairly hard run on Tuesday. Um, did I do? I did a 10K basically. Got a little loop that I can run around the area here and get almost exactly a 10K. And I did the first half kind of zone 2, and the second half at what I thought would be maybe my race day pace. And it was hot, it was humid, and it was a pretty good workout. That was on Tuesday, and the next day, go back here. Next day, so that was on the 17th. The 18th, my recovery score was like 83, 84. It was still in the green. But then Thursday, the 19th, it was a little lower. And that what I found is often it's not the day after, it's the day after that the recovery score and your HRV typically will go down, at least for me, which shows that maybe my body is really working hard on the recovery that second day. So that was Thursday. That or last orange that you see in the chart was Thursday. Then I made sure to get lots of liquids and good quality food and good sleep. So Friday was good recovery. Saturday was very good. That was that 95 that we were just talking. I woke up today with that 87, so still pretty solid. So I feel pretty good. Goal was to go out and do that little bit longer run with some hill sprints at the end, and I did that. And take a look at that. But yeah, there's my HRV. Average over the 30 average of 83 over the 30 days. Today was 77, so a little lower. Um, um, and it's kind of interesting. You see that trend line kind of going down a little bit. I think that's mainly due to, I'm just working a little bit harder on the workouts I'm doing, the heat and humidity. I'm really finding that I need to really focus on hydration, and I think that makes a little bit of a difference. But my average over 30 days was 83. So I came into it, did my workout today, and here was my heart rate zones because my recovery was a little lower and my heart rate variability was a little lower. You see that the heart rate ranges drop a little bit. The recovery was Saturday was like 87 to 142. Then it went 143 to 158 and then 158 to 174. Everything dropped a little bit. The bottom end, at the top end of the range was a little lower. Okay, so I said, okay, well, that's kind of my heart rate range. Um, Based off of recovery and heart rate variability. So that's kind of what I was shooting for my runs today. Now here's the result of the run. I wanted to do an hour run. I came in, yeah, I missed it by 13 seconds. So, but I pulled the information down. I use a heart rate monitor strap. I use my Garmin watch to track. It's got GPS on it, and then I use the heart rate external heart rate strap, so it pulls the data from there. And then I sync Morpheus with Garmin Connect, and pull the information into the app. So an hour and just basically an hour of running. 49 minutes of that hour was in the recovery zone. So somewhere between that 87 and 139. So essentially 100 to 139. 8 minutes and 40 seconds was in that conditioning zone. A lot of that was at near the end of the run as it was getting hot, humid. You start generally noticing what's called cardiac drift. Your heart rate tends to go up a little bit as the heat and humidity builds. It's working harder to keep the body cool. So that was a little bit there. And then I did get 2.5 minutes of what they call overload, that red that you see there. And that's basically the hill sprints. When you get done with the workout, this is something that Morpheus takes into account is what did you feel about the workout? How hard was it? And I said it was a 7 out of 10. It was challenging. It wasn't, absolute. I could have gone harder, but the goal overall was to be difficult but not impossible. So I gave it a 7 out of 10. And I gave myself that I did pretty good on it. Okay. Max heart rate, I got up to 160. And average heart rate was 131. Made a little note here. It says running hot and humid, 3 hill sprints at the end. So that was that. And then here's the breakdown of the heart rate. Blue is the recovery, green is the conditioning, and red is the overload. Okay, so you'll see here, all the way up until you start seeing those 3 spikes, that was basically running my route to the bottom of the hill that I do the hill sprints on. I had a little bit of green as I was getting close to the hill. It's a loop that I run a loop, and coming back towards home and where the hill is, there's some up and down. And on the ups, I was kind of running along, and heart rate kind of went above that 139, 140 for a little bit, but the majority of it was in blue. Then I had the 3 hill sprints, and you can see that I started off kind of in blue when I started the effort, went up into the green, and then a little bit of red right at the top as my heart rate went over. What was it, 150, 154, 155 was considered the overload range for today. So there's the 3 hill sprints, and then I did a recovery, easy jog at the end. So it's kind of where everything was. And then Morpheus took that and said, okay, well, you had it was a pretty, challenging workout. So now my recovery, where it was 87 when I woke up, the workout actually uh, reduced my recovery number because it was a challenging workout. Now, when I'm sitting here now, it's 81. It dropped down a little bit. Okay, so um, that is kind of how Morpheus works. And what I'm finding with this is that I'm not depending on Morpheus to tell me how to do the workouts, but I am finding Morpheus helpful in kind of a second check on, hey, my plan today was to do this. Um, how am I tracking? Am I recovered? How is my body handling the previous work that I've been doing? And it gives me a good, just a second opinion, basically, on that. So I'm finding it pretty useful. 6 weeks in, it was the data was um, a little too variable in that first few weeks until I had established that routine. So once I got past that initial 30 days, I am finding it helpful, particularly just to give me a second check on, hey, how's your body recovering from the previous day, or previous, how is it today for dealing with the stresses that have happened over the past? Okay, and that could be from workouts, that could be from just life in general, right? If you're stressed out and worried about something, that affects your body. That affects your body's ability to do something else. If it's dealing with stress, it doesn't have to be athletic stress. It can be, worried about something that's going on at work. You've got family stress, financial stress, whatever it is. Worried about something, and you're thinking about it. That's stress. Your body Stress is stress to your body. And the more stress you're on outside, or the more stress you're under outside of your workouts, that impacts your workouts. So you need to be aware of that. And that's been the very helpful thing that Morpheus has brought to the table for me, is kind of it's able to, by measuring the heart rate variability and the recovery from that, it's able to take into account some of those other things, because it affects that heart rate variability to a certain extent. Whereas you may not think about it, but you're under stress, and it affects your body. So you need to account for that. So it's been a good double check on things, and it's also uh, prompted me, or helped me, be more diligent with my uh, making sure that I'm getting good quality sleep, paying attention to what I'm eating, when I'm eating it, what I'm drinking, when I'm drinking it, um, those types of things, because it does have an impact. If you go to bed typically with, maybe had a cup of coffee or caffeine a few hours before you go to sleep, that for a lot of people, that affects your sleep. You don't sleep as well as you might have normally. That's going to affect your heart rate variability. Just same with alcohol. For a lot of people, I know I'm definitely part of this group. If you have alcohol, 3 to 5 hours before you go to sleep, it affects the quality of your sleep, and that flows through to your heart rate variability and your recovery. So it's just it's like another uh, check to make sure that, uh, a reminder to help you be more intentional about the things that you do to improve the chances that you will be able to recover from a day-to-day basis, not just from working out, but from just life in general, right? If maybe you have a stressful job, or you're going through a stressful period in your life with family member or whatever it is, being aware of that and seeing the impact of that can help you deal with that, by helping you be more intentional about what you can do to reduce the impact of that stress and give your body the best chance possible to recover and heal and rebuild, so you can go to that next day or that next stressful event better prepared to deal with it. I mean, ideally, if you could reduce that kind of stress to zero, that'd be great. But the reality is what life is, and there's going to be periods where things are much more stressful than others. Now we can do things to reduce the impact of that stress, and I'll talk about that. I plan on doing videos on things like, hey, meditation, breathing exercises, that type of thing. But I think Morpheus can fit into that toolbox that you can dig into and pull out the Morpheus Recovery HRV tool to help you realize the trends that are happening in your life and maybe prompt you to be more proactive and intentional about how to deal with that. So I've, in short, basically, well, after 35 minutes of talking, I found basically that Morpheus is a useful tool, especially if you are serious or committed to the process of doing what you can to help your body recover and get ready for the next day as much as possible. We do have a lot of control over that, and Morpheus is a way to monitor that. The thing that I found interesting is that depending on your recovery and heart rate variability, it will adjust those heart rate ranges, and that's something that when if you watch the video, the Zone 2 explained, right? I think I did that a couple years ago. It's still a very popular video. Um, people I get a lot of comments that your Zone 2 is an exact heart rate no matter what. And I'm becoming a believer. And I tended to think of that. It's like, well, if Zone 2 is, 80 to 85% or 75 to 85% of your max heart rate. But the reality is that depending on the stress that your body is under and how it's recovered, those numbers can change, especially if you're looking at an optimal way to optimize and do the best you can for your body when you're doing the workouts. So I'm becoming um, it's reinforcing some of the thoughts that I had that it's variable. It's not exactly a fixed number, and it changes. And if you are exercising on a regular basis, one of the things I've started paying attention to is I talk a lot about, hey, get your Zone 2. It's something where you can do the talk test, right? Where you can carry on a conversation. You're breathy, but you're not breathless. So you can speak at a few words at a time, but you can still carry on a conversation, but you can't sing a song, right? Because that takes too long. You've got to breathe a little bit faster. That is a good indicator that you're probably in Zone 2. And what I found by using Morpheus over the last month or so is, like the here the recovery range for today was 87 to 139. Yesterday, because my recovery was a little higher, it was 87 to 142. So a few beats, but I've been kind of testing that with the talk test as I'm doing my workout. And I think the change, the lowering of numbers is real. It does have an impact. When your body is under stress and it's maybe not fully recovered, it can't do as much work as it could when it's fully recovered. And so Morpheus is adjusting, and it doesn't go crazy, but it may drop 10 beats per minute. There was one of those recovery days when I think it was 64% or something. That particular day, my recovery heart rate range was 87 to, I think, like 130. So it dropped it by, 20 almost, or 15 or 20. So it does vary that. And when I'm doing a workout, I oftentimes will do the talk test to see if my watch says I'm at 130. And hey, can I do the talk test while my heart rate is at 130? Some days, very, very easily. Other days, not so much. And I think that's something that maybe Morpheus is tapping into, and that's interesting. There's more and more evidence that does have an impact. So I've been very happy with it. I'm enjoying using it and using it as just another tool um, in my toolbox of doing what I can to build lifelong strength and health. It's a good way to double check. I like the fact that it will set a suggested range of minutes. If you look at this for today, for that week, you see weekly training zone targets, 236 to 354 minutes of recovery. So that's 4 4 to 5 hours of recovery. It'll adjust those ranges based off of your training experience and where you are. So if you are just starting out with conditioning and just starting to do aerobic conditioning, you can set that profile up in Morpheus and it'll give you a lower number of minutes in each zone to get started. And then as you build up and show that you can reach those limits and still maintain good recovery in HRV, the number of minutes will increase to a certain extent. So it is flexible based on where you are in your conditioning journey, right? Where you are as it relates to aerobic conditioning. If you're just starting out, um, the total number of minutes is going to be lower, and it'll go up as you get more experience. So I do like that. So it has some flexibility. It's not just for people that have been training for years and years and years. Literally anybody can use it. The key is to be consistent with it, do the check-ins on a regular basis, but preferably same time and same way every day. That gives consistency to the data, and that takes out one of the potential variables, right? If you're testing at the same time and in the same way, that helps with the consistency. So as long as you do that, you use it on a consistent basis, and you actively work at building your conditioning, I think Morpheus is definitely a tool to check out. It's not a magic bullet, but it is another way to check and monitor what you're doing on a regular basis. So there we go. So all that being said, I've been training for the Peachtree Road Race. Full summer heat and humidity has hit here in the last week. I've got basically 12 days from when I'm doing this. It's on Friday the 4th. So my plan is for next week, this coming week, is to run the same thing Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday. It's supposed to be 95, 96 degrees, pretty much Monday through 95 to 97 degrees Monday through Thursday. Cool off a little bit for the weekend, but still basically be in the low 90s. So I'm really going to have to pay attention to my hydration and my fueling, and probably run a little earlier. I don't need to go running in the middle of the day, but I do want to test myself a little bit with the humidity and the heat, because odds are it's going to be hot and humid at 7 o'clock in the morning on July 4th. It almost always is here in Atlanta. Temperature 75, 70 to 80, and humidity 60 to 70%. So relatively sticky, and that affects your performance. So if you can train it a little bit beforehand, it won't be such a shock to the system when you go into the event and are trying to maybe push your body a little bit. So my goal is on Tuesday, I am going to do I'm going to do I think a longer run with a little bit faster at the end, maybe 15 to 25, 30 minutes out of an hour. Maybe do an hour, 30 minutes zone two, another 30 minutes, kind of race paces again. Uh, Thursday is probably going to be almost all zone two, maybe with a little bit at the end, a little bit of race pace. And then next Sunday, I will do one more, kind of what I did today, mostly zone two with a few sprints or short, real high intense efforts at the end. And then I have 4 days till then, so it'll be pretty easy at that point. Depending how the weather is, I might take it more easy on Sunday, maybe push the hill sprints, whatever, to Thursday and see. But, I can't really add to my fitness a whole lot in the next week, but I can kind of keep it wherever it is, and I can get 3 good days of training in the heat and humidity and help my body be more adapted to it. So that I can reduce the impact of that a little bit on race day. So we shall see. My goal is to be somewhere under 55 minutes. If I could be closer to 50, that'd be great. We shall see. Really, what I'd like to be able to do is to run fast enough that I can still start in Wave A next year. That's all. I'd like to start in that first group for whatever reason. It's fun. It's fun to do that. And I think to do that, I'm probably going to have to be I'm probably going to have to be under 51, 52 minutes. So we'll see. If not, I'll probably be in wave B, which is still fine. But I'm not running exclusively. This is my highest mileage week in over a year, I think, and it was 20 miles. And that's probably about the farthest. Probably next week I'll probably run 15 to 20 miles. Typically, when I'm not training for a race, I might run 10 to 15 miles. So I've added a little bit more mileage to get me ready for the Peachtree. But then I'll kind of go back to still running 2 to 3 days a week, but cut back the total miles in each of those workouts, and then give a little bit more time to using the Concept 2 rower and Zwift in the basement where it's air conditioned and cooler for sure. Because hot and humid here in Atlanta. I'm sure a lot of you are in parts of the country or world where it's hot and humid as well. So really have to be mindful of that and not push too hard and too high heat because we can really get ourselves in trouble if we're not used to it. So definitely take it. Be careful out there. Play it smart. Train smart. Heat and humidity can really get you. So you just have to be aware of it. And I've been doing this for a long time, so I've got a pretty good feeling I kind of know how my body feels when it's getting too hot and overheated, and I haven't reached that point yet, and I don't want to. If it's really, really bad, I'll go out, run a loop, come back home, get some water, stand in the air conditioning for a few minutes, drink some water, and then go back out and finish. So that's always a strategy is kind of do loops rather than one long run, break it, still do a long run, but break it into 3 loops with a minute or so break to get some water and cool off a little bit before you hit it. So be smart out there. Hope everybody's doing well. Leave some comments. Have any of you started using Morpheus? Are you using it now? Have you used it? Are you thinking of using it? Leave a comment below. And are any of you doing any racing, running any events here over the summer? Summer tends to, a lot of 5Ks, 10Ks. It's the time of the year for that. And the half marathons and marathons tend to be in the fall and the spring when it's a little cooler. But yeah, summer is prime time for those shorter road races. So if anybody's doing that, let us know what you're doing in the comments. And if you're on Strava and you want to join a little group, I've set up the fitness roadmap group on Strava. You can join the group. It's there. That way you can have other like-minded people join the group and track each other's activities. And check the links below. If any of you are wanting to get started exercising and want a little help and suggestion, I am doing exercise strategy sessions. So go ahead and click the link there, get on the calendar. We'll do a quick call, give you an opportunity to ask me any questions. I'll get a little bit of an idea kind of where you are, where you're starting from, what kind of results you're expecting, what you're looking to do, and I can give you some suggestions and ways to think about it so you can get started and feel good about doing it and get started safely and confidently. So definitely check out the link down there if you want a little help getting started with your conditioning, getting started down that road to lifelong strength and health. So that's it for today. Got to go out and go back out into that heat and humidity. I've got a backyard that needs to be trimmed. get the grass cut in the backyard. It's hot today, but it's not near as hot as it's going to be the rest of this week. So I got to do that now. Thanks everybody for watching, and until next time, take care, enjoy the journey, and be well. See you later.